Writer-director Brett Bentman brings us Lone Star Shark. Now, Bentman has actually previously given us a trilogy of shark movies in the form of the Bull Shark movies. Now he is bringing us Lone Star Shark, and this is actually the first of a trilogy of new shark movies, all shot back to back, but again feature a bull shark. So the story of this one, in a nutshell, if you had to kind of describe it, is a cross between The Shallows and The Truman Show. Does that sound intriguing? Well, let me give you a plot synopsis. It focuses on a couple that are going on a break after they have endured some trauma. The wife's sister has committed suicide and she found the body and is obviously traumatized about it. So the husband is taking her on a trip to this lake where they're going to go on the lake and have some, relaxing times. However, their sort of small boat gets caught up in something and has ended up kind of getting stranded in the middle of this lake. And there happens to be a bull shark in it. And the Truman Show part of it comes in where we actually learn that there's some type of shady corporation that may be pulling the strings and televising all of this for nefarious reasons and get kind of views on the dark web and all the rest of it, and they may well be responsible for this situation. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's talk about it. What do I think works in this movie's favour? Now, the original Bull Shark movie was much maligned, but I actually didn't mind it, actually for a low budget. I kind of saw some value in it, and I think I probably gave it one of the more positive reviews out there. Its sequels did seem kind of quite rushed, it must be said. And this one, it looks like we're having a different style of shark movie. It looks like it's more sort of based on just individual situations. I don't really see the sequels really having anything to do with this, to be honest with you. It seems more like a one and done, and doesn't contain any characters. And I should say it's a smaller scale movie in some respects, more self-contained, having this kind of this couple stranded in the middle of this sort of lake, which again is a little bit like The Shallows in some respects. So in a way, I can understand the reasons for this sort of story. It kind of makes sense to try and keep it like a one location sort of story, keeping sort of costs down. And this is a very low budget movie. So in respect to the art of making a B-movie shark film, you can imagine that trying to limit costs by having a situation like this, like a story written around this, makes a lot of sense. And obviously this extra angle where we have some type of shady corporation who are behind all this, I'm presuming is going to be the thrill, and I haven't seen 2 or 3 yet. So I get the idea behind this one. Now, one aspect where this movie has kind of changed compared to the original Bull Shark movies is this actually now uses a practical shark rather than the CGI sharks that from the original Bull Shark movies. Now, there is still some sort of CGI shark shots here, long shots and things like that, and a little bit of kind of stock footage. But we have got a practical VFX, and I always appreciate it, despite the fact that it's clearly a very low budget. And I'm not going to lie to you, the shark here is let's just call it rather B-movie looking. But I gotta say, this is the B-movie fan in me saying this. I have to say, I kind of quite enjoyed this very paper mache looking shark. Now, this almost looks like it should have been a shark from a Mark Polinia style movie. It's so crappy looking. You can't help but kind of be quite amused by it, especially when this movie is not like a silly joke movie like a Mark Polinia movie. This is a film that is taken seriously and is not meant to be this kind of camp silly B movie. It's meant to be more of a dramatic movie. But we have a incredibly schlonky looking shark. So now, look, I'm not saying it is a good practical VFX, but I kind of thought it was kind of fun, I have to say. Now, the advantage is obviously you can actually have actors interact with something that is physically there a little bit more easily than, say, a sort of a CGI shark, particularly when we're talking like a very low budget kind of CGI here. So again, this does give us some sort of more interaction with the actors and stuff like that. You know, and I do applaud the attempt to have a you know, a lower budget shark practical effects. You know, despite how it turns out. I think there is some interesting ideas, particularly when we're talking about this kind of corporation that's somehow behind this. It isn't actually the first time we've seen something like that. There was a movie called Shark Week that did something kind of similar. And there's been like a low-budget British movie as well that again had this kind of televised sort of, you know, shark attacks and things like that. But you know, it makes for kind of an interesting angle. The other thing I would say as well, you might see some criticism about the acting. I actually didn't think the acting was alright, was too bad, to be honest. I thought the acting was fine. We really spend most of the time with our two principal characters, but you know, I didn't think they did a bad job at all, if I'm completely honest with you. You know, I think it's easy to kind of pick on a movie like this, but for the film that it's trying to be, I thought the acting was fine. Let's talk about what doesn't work. Now, let's just circle back to that shark. Despite how fun and goofy I think this movie shark actually looks, it is extremely, like, crappy looking, it's got to be said. So if we are putting our critical hat on, and we are looking at this in a critical light, you know, the shark effects are quite bad, despite, you know, how much fun you might have them in a kind of a low-budget manner. It's laughably bad paper mache looking shark, it must be said. Again, it's a very low-budget movie, but I just don't think people care necessarily about the production costs, about when they're watching a film. They just see like you know, a shoddy-looking shark. And the way this shark interacts as well is like extremely kind of slow and kind of just glides over and things like that. Again, it's very down to kind of lack of resources, I suspect. I do wonder why Bentman decides to try and like make 3 films rather than kind of consolidate his resources to make one better one. Maybe I guess there's just more money involved in 3 like kind of quite sort of low budget poor movies and, you know, a mediocre more expensive one, I suppose, but there you go. The movie's plot isn't exactly deep. It's a couple stuck on the lake, and the lake does not seem to be very big. It seems more like a pond, if I'm completely honest with you. There's no idea how the shark got here. It is suggested that this kind of corporation maybe may have put it there and are responsible for this shark. But again, I have to say, I think these kind of corporation scenes are probably reshoots. That's like how they feel. It seems like those have been added after the fact because they feel very tacked on. And we see sort of camera angles that this corporation is looking at. And I think, well, who's filming that? You know, where are these cameras? Because there seems to be like close-ups. I mean, it's what we are watching as the film. And it just doesn't make any sense. I think it's clearly just an idea that was probably had afterwards to give it an extra element. And as fun as that element might be, it's given no context. It's just there. We don't really know the point of it. You don't know how these people are filming it, for what purpose, how they got the shot there. Nothing. Nothing is given in regards to that. So, you know, it's a little bit on the sort of silly side, it has to be said. The movie is possibly a little bit too slow here. We really only have this kind of shark menacing our couple, and as such, it's a little bit kind of low stakes, you might say. And again, I understand the decision to have this as a one location sort of style movie to keep costs down and stuff, but it really is just like a shark sort of swimming slowly around this one couple that are stuck out in this lake. You know, again, it just seems like a little bit of a half-baked idea, to be honest with you. You know, some of the situations I think these characters are in are not particularly fleshed out. This whole kind of like wife having found her sister after she's committed suicide, again, it's kind of hinted at through the movie, but it's not really done in a way that makes sense to the viewer, because we don't really understand what's happened until later on in the movie, and as such you're thinking, I don't really understand what I'm looking at, because the movie decides not to give us that sort of information straight away. So, you know, it's like, who is this other woman? You know, who is this? It's the sister, but, you know, so it's kind of like, the way it's done, I just don't think it's particularly sort of narratively sound. Overall, you know, I have to be honest with you, as much as I kind of found some amusement in this movie, my critical hat has to say this is not a good movie overall. It's a 3 out of 10. We'll see what Lone Star Shark 2 and 3 are like, but this one, 3 out of 10. What were your thoughts if you seen it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Geek Legion of Doom is not in the Epstein files. You better subscribe.